I think we can start now. Thank you, Qasif. Thank you very much for joining us and sparing your valuable time. Really appreciate. Qasif currently heads Finja that he helped co-found. Finja is a Pakistani fintech startup with a mission to transform how people relate to money and make payments. Previously, Qasif founded FinSurgents, a financial service startup consultancy, which specializes in retooling analog business cases to digital. The firm has clients in Pakistan, UAE, and Africa. Qasif has over 25 years of multi-country experience in building, managing, and growing digital financial services, products, and businesses. Qasif previously served as head of digital banking for MCB, one of the largest banks in Pakistan, and earlier on as head of marketing and digital channels for ABN AMRO Bank Singapore. Before joining MCB, Qasif worked at Standard Chartered Pakistan as head of digital banking. With this intro, thank you very much, Qasif. It's over to you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Kya haal hai? I'm right now in Khaira Gali. I've come here for a weekend with a friend of mine, and it's very cold here, and that's why I'm dressed like that. And I also have a terrible cough, not COVID, but a terrible cough. So, if excuse me if that interrupts the talk in the middle. So, ये है कि we'll make it interactive. And, I don't want to have a monologue. And I also don't know the understanding of the audience on the subject that I'm going to talk about. So I think it's smart that I engage you much earlier on, and from there we make the most of the talk interactive. And I can start answering the comments and the questions. But I'll tell you a little bit about Finja very quickly. And through that, I'm going to explain to you that how a new force has emerged in the world, which are called the fintechs, and how the fintechs can actually really transform economies, and how I think that Pakistan is going to, really transform in the coming years, in the near future, if we harness this force well. And it's not just Pakistan, it's happening everywhere. And, in that context, I'll talk to you about Finja, and then I'll explain to you, the fintech force, and then we go into digital lending. That's generally the theme, but, your questions can take it anywhere. Okay. So Finja ka ye hai ji ke Finja is one company which has 2 licenses today. That's the only company, new age fintech company, jisko ek state bank ne license diya hua hai, which allows us to take deposits, and the other one is SCCP, which allows us to lend. तो क्योंकि अब ये 2 लाइसेंसेस फिंजा के पास हैं, तो वो डिपॉजिट भी ले सकता है और वो लैंड भी कर सकता है. So that has put us in a very enviable position post COVID, जिसकी वजह से बैंक्स जो हैं वो अब हमारे जैसे इदारों के साथ पार्टनर करना चाहते हैं, और ऐसे हैं ही बहुत कम फिनटेक्स जिनको स्टेट बैंक ने और SCCP ने लाइसेंस दिया. ऐसा तो कोई भी नहीं है जिनके पास दोनों है. Today, tomorrow, obviously things will change. So now Finja is a digital lending company, and we use the SCCP license to lend, and we use the state bank license to take deposit, because the deposit that we take under the state bank license, we can't lend. So what we did was that the money that we had raised through the VCs, which are venture capitalists, in our case, we had raised about $5 to $6 million through Swedish, American, and Japanese VCs. And we use that money to go out and lend to small businesses and to professionals that work in these businesses. And we build up portfolios which have great vintages. and we of our own money, like we had raised $6 million, but we have done so far close to $10 million of lending throughput. Most of these loans are 1 month loans, and when we give them, they come back very quickly. So what we've done is that we've given these loans out of our own money, and we've built these vintages of these portfolios, which I will explain to you. And now the banks are coming in and they are starting to partner with us. So earlier we were going out and doing this lending from our own money. And obviously there's a limit to it. And when you raise money, you don't do it to build lending books, you do it to pay the operational expenses of the company, and build products and market those products. You're not supposed to fund the lending books, but in Pakistan the banks are so conservative that they would have not sort of worked with us had we not gone out and done this lending ourselves. So what is it that we do? So what we do is that what we've understood is that anytime there is payment data, one can monetize that payment data to create digital credit. So what we do is that on one side, we work with Karyana stores, or what you call mom and pop stores. And what we do is that we work with the FMCGs, which is the Unilevers of the world, and then the distributors, which buy from the FMCGs and give to the Karyanas. But the Karyanas are always short of money, and they're buying every week, every 10 days. So a lot of times their shops are empty because they can't buy. So what we do is that we buy data from the distributors and the FMCGs of how much a Karyana is buying. And then we feed all of that information in our machine learning engines. And then we throw out the value and give a loan to the Karyana wala in a way where the loan goes directly to the distributor. So when the Karyana wala wants to buy something, we go out and pay the distributor, and the Karyana wala pays us a little later. So we are now in partnership with Mezan Bank to do this. So our products have become Islamic. So at the point when the Karyana wala is buying, Mezan and Finja goes out and buys from the distributor for 100 rupees. And then the Karyana wala pays us 1 month later, 102 rupees. And, it's Islamic. And now he's gotten a cash flow. And what we are doing is that we are allowing him to buy we give him an aggregate credit line, and then he can go out and utilize it across different distributors. Now we could do that because we got sell side data. Buy side data, meaning that whatever the Karyana is buying, we got that real data. And we went out and we started to monetize that data. Today, we've got thousands of Karyana stores, that are availing this, and there are over 1 million Karyana stores, in the country. And, so this is called sort of B2B commerce. And what we are doing is that we are digitizing B2B commerce, and then we are providing digital credit for it. So the thesis is that anytime you take technology and digital credit to a small business, then you can go out and make that business into a super business. And that's the thesis, that we are testing, that as we take these things to these small businesses and these entrepreneurs, what would it do to them? The main restraint that they have is credit, and you can't give credit in emerging markets because everything is happening in cash. And therefore you can't ascertain the real value of what's going on. But anytime you get any opportunity where you get real data of folks, who are buying digitally or selling digitally, so that happens. So this time you're getting the supply side data, and that's the story behind the Karyana loans. Now, on the other side, we have another product which allows businesses to go out and make payments to their employees, like salaries and vendor supplier and partner payments. It's called Finja Business, and we got 1,300 businesses on it. Now, what we do is that, again, we know how much money an employer is paying an employee. So what we've done is that we've created credit lines and salary advance products for employees. So we go out and we let you, and you know, in Pakistan, the salary cycles are 1 month. So everybody
Shahid
goes broke.
Sahab, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Shahid Sahab, my name is Salman, and I wanted to ask you, who owns this data by the buying side data? Who actually owns that? You got it from somewhere, but who is the owner of that data? Thank you.
Yes, that's a great question. So in this case, you see, the merchant is producing that data because they're buying from the distributor, and the distributor is buying from the FMCG, which is Unilever, Nestle, Pepsi, Coke, Reckitt Benckiser, and all of that. Now we've got agreements with the distributor and FMCG both, and they give us this data, and we work this data out, and then we give the credit to the merchant. And in case the merchant does not return our loan, then we have supply suppression agreements with the distributor, meaning that the distributor would not supply to the merchant. But till date, we've never had to evoke any of those, because you know, the merchants are such great, they always pay back. We've got like near 0% bad debt right now. So the data is really owned by all three parties, which is the distributor, the FMCG, and the merchant. But in the emerging markets, I think the data is owned by, for all practical purposes, by the FMCG and the distributor, because the merchant or the poor merchant is voiceless, really, and the kind of laws, etc., that we have there. And anyways, the data is being used to, this time at least, to create credit for him. So so the FMCG, etc., give us the data. Now on the other side, what happens is that the employer is generating that data, because we are going out and creating a service for the employer, and the employer goes out and starts to disperse salaries to the employees. And when they start to do that, what we do is that we create a salary advance product, and then the employee, every time they run out of money, can go 50% of their salary, and then they pay us in a month. And if they don't, we charge us, and if they don't, we have a recourse, and we can deduct our repayment, because the repayments are happening through our portal, right? So the loans are not underwritten by the company, but if the employees don't pay and they're gainfully employed, then we have that in the terms and conditions, that we could do that. So what I was trying to say was that earlier we were trying to do all of this ourselves, but post pandemic, the banks have come to the party, and now what's happening is that we've got multiple bank books plugging into the Finja NBFC, which is the non-banking finance corporation under the SECP. So I've got a Mezan Bank book, a Faisal Bank book, a couple of Easy Pesa and financial book. Now, how that works is that the bank becomes, the bank gives you 80, that's how the classic bank partnership works, that the bank gives you 80% of the capital, Finja has 20%, and I become the junior tranche, meaning that I'm underwriting the 20% of the loan, and if we give out 100 rupees and someone returns 70 rupees, the bank gets their money first, we get our money last, and then the bank makes 60% of the revenue and we make 40% of the revenue. So Finja does all the work, meaning it's our the loans, we decide who's going to get how much, and so
Sorry,
on. And we've got,
can I intercede
please,
and ask a question?
please.
I'm kind of getting the idea of what sort of company you have and what you're doing, but I'd like to know what is the purpose of this meeting? And sorry, I've come into it as a bit blind, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if you could just give us the aim of the meeting and what, as a participant, is expected of me or expected of me in the future, I'd like to just some clarification on that.
Sure. Let's start from there. So, the thing is, what I'm saying is that the future in Pakistan, is a lot brighter than most people would think. And the reason is that, you know, the economy is going to swell at the back of what we call digital credit. And because everything happens in Pakistan today, or most of it in cash or in paper-based instruments, therefore, and obviously the banks are making a lot of money lending to the government. Therefore, there's hardly any lending that's happened in the country. Pakistan is a country where less percent of the people are formally lent to. Hardly any businesses are lent to. What I'm trying to say through this talk is that it looks like can change now, and the reason is two or threefold. The first is that there is a force which is called the fintechs, and these type of companies are coming between the banks and the business users, which are going to change their behavior first, but personal users as well. So the burden of innovation is moving from the incumbents, which are the banks, to actually these smaller companies, and the policymakers are going out and almost ensuring that these types of partnerships happen. At the same time, there are policies that are starting to come out which would see cash and other things go down. Now, as these things start to take root, the promise of digital credit becomes real. And that is why there is going to be a large-scale behavior change, because when you go out and start to receive your salaries digitally, when you go out and start to spend digitally as a business or as a user, then you know, these new type of collaborations between the banks and the fintechs, aided by the government and the policymakers, are going to start to jump to go out and create digital credit for you in your personal and in your business lives. And that could actually be the precursor of a real transformation, which can happen a lot sooner than most of us could imagine. And I started to talk about Finja in that context to make everything real. That, you know, stuff like this is actually happening because companies like these are actually starting to, you know, come up and you know, start to scale also.
Kasab, can I ask a question if you don't mind?
Please, Ji, please. That's
Okay.
actually much better, Ji. It's very blind going out and talking. I think questions and shorter answers is the best way to go with an engaged and intelligent audience. Huh? Yes.
So you mentioned that your target clients, they are Kirana store and small businesses, retail business mainly. This is an area in Pakistan which is mostly untapped. I mean, none of the banks, they have targeted this market, and the reason is this is mostly undocumented. This is something which even government of Pakistan couldn't do it. So my question is, what challenges do you face to attract or talk to these guys? Because most of them, they are not even educated. They don't have any access to the internet. They don't read newspaper, etc. They are not in the internet. So what are the challenges do you face while talking to them, doing a business with those guys? Because they don't have any data. Everything is on cash. Everything is on in their memory. So what are the challenges do you face?
देखें ये बड़ा अच्छा सवाल है. देखें अभी तक this is the irony of the micro banking industry, जो कि तकरीबन 50 साल से है. They haven't gone out and ever tapped the corner store or the Kirana stores. And the Kirana stores have never been lent to. Uske reasons hain. One of the reasons is that the bank expects the Kirana guy to come to the bank. वो बेचारा, he can never leave his shop, so he can never go out and do that. And number two, there's shitloads of paperwork involved, or the Kirana guy cannot go out and do that paperwork. So the first thing that we did was that we took everything to him. And the second thing that we did was, and this is the point, this is the next point that I wanted to make, was that anytime you get your hands on some sort of a real payment data, and in this case, we worked hard and we explained to the FMCGs and the distributors कि अगर हम किराने को लोन देंगे और तुम हमें बताओगे कि वो कितना सामान खरीद रहा है, तो उससे तुम लोगों की सेल ऊपर जाएगी. ये एक ऐसा बिजनेस मॉडल है कि everybody is winning. देखो, the किराना वाला is winning because he's selling more. the distributor is winning, the FMCG is winning, Finja and the bank partner is winning, and the customer is winning. Kiryana wala is winning because वो हर हफ्ते जब वो सामान खरीदता है तो वो 5 से 10% बनाता है, और वो महीने में 4 बार करता है तो वो 20-25% बनाता है. हम उससे 2 से 2.5% लेते हैं, वो फौरन कैलकुलेट करता है और फिर वो बल्क डिस्काउंट्स भी लेता है और सारा कुछ. तो जो डेटा दिखा रहा है वो ये दिखा रहा है कि 30% sales have gone up for the people that are taking a loan. So when we go to the Kiryana wala and we explain to him कि भाई, when we go out and do this for you, this is what it does to your business. And उसके बाद वो अगला सवाल ये पूछता है कि यार इसमें सूद है. तो हम उसको बताते हैं कि यार हमारे पास 2 प्रोडक्ट हैं. एक प्रोडक्ट है मैजान बैंक के साथ जिसमें सूद नहीं है, जो मसावामा के साथ होता है हम, और दूसरा ये है कि जिसमें हम फी लेते हैं लेकिन उसमें पीछे कैलकुलेशंस जो हैं वो इंटरेस्ट की हैं. तो कोई लोग जो हैं वो एक को ऑप्ट करते हैं और कोई लोग, बट ऑब्वियसली जो इस्लामिक प्रोडक्ट है और जो इस्लामिक माइंडसेट है वो नीचे ज्यादा प्रिवेलेंट है. बट जो कन्वेंशनल प्रोडक्ट है वो लेना आसान है, क्योंकि कन्वेंशनल प्रोडक्ट में मैं आपको कैश दे देता हूं और आप अपनी मर्जी की चीजें खरीद सकते हैं, लेकिन दूसरे में मैं आपको सामान लेके देता हूं. तो लोगों का इस्लाम भी टेस्ट होता है. बट वो दोनों चीजें जो हैं हम करियाना वाले के पास लेके आ रहे हैं, उसको एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं और फिर डिजिटली उसकी इंस्टेंटली उसको वो फुलफिल करवा रहे हैं, और सब कुछ डिजिटल डेटा के ऊपर कर रहे हैं. और जो एग्जिस्टिंग डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स और एफएमसीजीज है उनको साथ लेके चल रहे हैं. तो आज तक किसी ने ये किया नहीं इस तरीके के साथ, और मैं आपको बताऊं हो भी नहीं सकता था इन अ वे. उसकी वजह यह है कि मैं जब पहली बार जाके लोन देता हूं तो मेरी लोन देने की कॉस्ट जो है वो 800-900 रुपया है, लेकिन उसके बाद सब्सिक्वेंटली वो जितने भी लोन लेता है वो डिजिटली लेता है, तो उसकी कोई कॉस्ट नहीं है. बट द फर्स्ट टाइम व्हेन आई गो आउट एंड गिव अ लोन, यू नो, आई हार्डली ब्रेक इवन. So if you don't use technology to sort of do all of these things, you know, the cost will become prohibitive, but you would never scale also.
इसमें
Can
थोड़ा
I just
supplementary
again,
question.
sorry, can I just please repeat my question? I would like
Yes.
to know, where do I come into all this? In
Sir
the sense
Mahmood,
that
can we talk
I
this
have,
offline? I will give you a
Yes.
brief on this one,
नहीं,
and we can talk offline on this.
मैं बताना चाहता हूँ. I'm trying to paint I'm reporting from ground. I'm trying to paint a future, a very recent future in Pakistan in the next 18 to 36 month future. I'm risking to predict short-term future, which is the hardest to do because it arrives and comes back and bites you very quickly. I'm telling you that there's going to be a economic transformation at the back of something which is called digital credit. Lots of micro businesses, small businesses, and businesses that have never seen credit are going to see credit, which is going to be non-collateralized credit, and it's going to come out through these new payment data sets that people are going to use their brain and mix it with technology and partnerships. And at the same time, professionals who have salaries are going to get access to credit, all sorts of credit for mortgages, for all sorts of these other things, again coming through these fintechs and bank partnerships. So the talk is to try and, you know, show you something that's arriving and how and why. And I think everybody here, my understanding is super excited about what's happening in Pakistan. And, you know, good news, I'm sure, is rare and are more welcome. So that's really what's in it for at the base level for everyone who's on.
So
Okay.
one supplementary question. A similar model, if I recall, was adopted by Dr. Yunus in Bangladesh, microfinancing,
Ji.
and he got the Nobel Prize
Ji.
also there. I mean, but
Ji.
but their cost was exorbitant. They were lending the money at 33% probably. And lately I heard the news that it was a failure then. I mean, nobody could, obviously that exorbitant cost, nobody could pay the cost. So how do you compare? What is your interest rate here? I mean, practical, real interest rate that you charge to your client, etc. And what do you see when you compare with the Dr. Yunus model in Bangladesh?
वो बहुत अच्छा सवाल है. देखें, हम जो पहले मैं ये बता देता हूँ, हम जो चार्ज करते हैं इस वक्त, that's about 2 to 2.5% monthly, which is about 24% or whatever. Now, you know, this is cheaper than micro credit conventional businesses, and this is way cheaper than anything else, you know, जो वो लेते हैं. So, but and the way we do it is कि हम दो तरह की lending करते हैं. हम कहते हैं productive lending and consumption lending. Productive lending is when you do lending in and businesses, small businesses deploy that lending, you know, to grow them. You know, it goes back into businesses. So, I mean, 75 to 80% of what Finja does as lending is productive lending to small to medium businesses. Matlab, we do 5 million rupee loans also, but we do 50,000. Bulk of our loans are about 50,000 rupees to these. Now, because we use technology to deliver these loans, to calculate these loans, and to disperse these loans, to collect these loans. So our operational costs are much lower, but our cost of funds are higher because obviously, you know, we are not a bank and so on and so forth, right? But we are still cheaper than the market now. And we are focused on productive lending to businesses, and we do lending on data that these businesses have over the previous years. Now, what is it that the microfinance banks got wrong? What is it that Professor Yunus got wrong? And, you know, it's easy to, in hindsight, to sort of go out and dissect somebody who got a Nobel Prize and arguably change the world. But 45 years later, average people like myself can shed that work to pieces. And I'm about to do that for you. You know, there are two reasons why the microfinance, you know, businesses, banks have failed the world. The first, and you know why they have failed the world? Because they only have 200 million customers worldwide. Telephone industry, which has come much later than that, have billions. So the microfinance businesses failed because they only have 200 million active customers. But they also failed because there's no track record that those people that they lent to actually broke class. And the reason there is twofold. One that you mentioned, but the other one is that they went out and gave money to the poor in the hope that the poor is going to go out and do business. So, I mean, you know, when you go out and give money to the poor, they don't always do business. And when they do it, it doesn't generally fly. So, you know, and then you do it at such high costs. So what ends up doing is that they go out and, you know, buy themselves a cow or a bike or get their daughter married off or, you know, drink up. But, you know, and that's what really happens. But what we're doing is that we're using technology to go out and disperse these loans and bring therefore costs really low. But also the Karyana guy makes like 30-40% monthly. Now he makes 5 to 10% on the stuff which has a price on it, but he goes out and makes a lot more on stuff which is half of what he sells, which doesn't have a price on it. We don't even calculate in our income calculations. But what I'm trying to say is that we are very cognizant of the fact that what we are charging is so you know, small to the profit that he's making. And, you know, we are mostly building a company on lending on those premises. And then when you use technology, so that's how this time digital credit revolution is different than the microfinance revolution, because it's going after digital data of whether it's a salary or it's an income or it's a business or whatever it is, or it's a buying of purchases, and secondly, it's going and using technology for the disbursement of collection of that, and that's why it's going to be different and a lot more effective.
Shai sir, this is Salim Rama. I've got a little question related to a macro picture of the product that will be sold through the system. We already, you know, cribbing about the middleman taking up the price between the wholesale dealer and the retailer, the Kiryana guy. Now here comes in yourself, your system, and you take, naturally you have to take your little slice out of it. And won't this jack up the prices further?
Okay, that's a great question. Dekhiye, the way it operates is that today in the old system, the distributor goes to the Karyana and then takes the order and then goes back, and then somebody else brings the order and then takes the payment and all of that. In the new system, the Karyana guy digitally creates an order and then places that order to the distributor. The Finja system, which I'm using as an example here, it goes out and immediately in the real time pays the distributor, flushing capital in the system, so the distributor gets paid immediately, and then the distributor delivers the stuff to the Karyana. Karyana loads money in any one of his accounts, wallets, etc., or orders a courier, or there are many ways, and then we get the money back. So what's happening is that physical, real world work is being reduced. When today a distributor guy picks up cash, then that cash does not get back into the system for another 3 days. So that's like, that cost is already there in the system. So what we are doing is that sorry, you were saying something.
I fully understand that, of course, it's going to enhance efficiency. I'm talking about the effect on the ultimate cost of the product for consumers
Yes.
like me, say.
Yes. So yeah. So the cost would not go up, because what's happening right now is that actually what we impact is the sale. So what we are doing is that when the Karyanas are actually starting to work with us, they are actually starting to sell more, and they're being able to sell more because most of the time they're out of stock, because when the distributor came, they didn't have the money, and now the distributor is not going to come for another 2 days or 3 days, or depending upon whatever. So when the Karyana starts to make less because of the inefficiency of the system, nobody is winning. So what we are doing is that we are starting to make the Karyanas become more efficient, but at the same time we are making the distributor more. We are actually a capital packaging company, and what we are doing is that we are taking out all the wasteful activity and creating a huge benefit. But at the same time, you are right that we have a footprint, and that footprint is like 2%. That 2%. But the thing is that the kind of efficiency and the expansion that we are creating in the system is way more. And
At a cost.
as long at that 2%, so what we would have to do is that shave off way more than that for it to scale. So the question is that going to be passed on to the end user? Still
Exactly.
remains. Yeah, it still remains. I would have to ponder on that. Yes, that eventually when everything settles, where does it go?
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks.
Shahid Sab, one more question here. Digitally, when you make a transaction, for example, of a loan disbursement or collection that comes back to you, can you tell us what is the technology behind that makes it foolproof and is not tampered with, or it takes care of all the security and accuracy of all transactions that are taken? What is that technology that is involved in a digital transaction, either in lending or in collection? Thank you.
Okay, so it's not a perfect world, and we are building. I'm going to talk about the collection first, or let's talk about the disbursement first. Maybe easier for you to understand. So when our machine learning AI type engine spits out a value, because these are early days, our credit analysts, look at them and the feedback loop goes, and now the money is ready. Now, when the money is ready, because Finja has these 2 licenses, I'm fully plugged into the country's financial plumbing, I can throw that money into either the merchant's wallet, I can throw that into his any bank account, I can go out and throw money into the distributor's account, and I can even go out and have him open a Finja wallet and throw the money there. And I'm okay doing it anyway, because I'm not preferring my wallet over anybody else's account, because I'm a digital lending company. That's how I think. So, the throwing of the money is very easy. Now, the challenge comes in is that when the merchant wants to repay, so it's very easy if the merchant puts the money, if the merchant has money in a bank account or in my own wallet, then I pull it. If it's in anyone else's bank account, his own, then he has to push it. And if he's not doing any of this, then I've plugged into multiple courier services, Leopard, etc. And then, a Leopard guy goes to him, takes cash, and immediately throws money back into his wallet from where I pull it. And sometimes he goes out and puts money in a Easy Pesa agent, from where we go out and pull. So we've got all of these options running, and right now all of these options are free. But what we want to do is to create a few more and then start pricing them, the ones that cost us.
So what is the process of vetting these merchants before you throw money at them? There must be some process. And how do you know? And that process, I think Salman was alluding to that process, how do you make it foolproof that your client will take the money, use it properly, and then give it back to you?
Yes.
Yeah, where do you get the source of knowing that this merchant is good for what he says?
Absolutely. What a fantastic question. Now, when I explain this to you, you would be able to apply this to a much wider play. Like, this is basically how digital supply chain lending works. And I'm going to explain to you how we cracked that in the Kriana context. But then you'd be able to see it everywhere. And that's the transformation I was getting excited earlier. So what we do is that what happens now is that a distributor comes to us and says that, I've got these 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 stores that I deliver to. And we've got a platform which is called Finja Business. He comes in and he uploads data of those merchants into Finja Business, meaning that their location, how much they've been buying, their ID card, in some cases, Punjab Food Authority certificate, etc. Now, once they do that, we go out and we visit these Karyanas, and then we take pictures and we ask them questions. And, today we've got so much data that I could tell you that if there is a 6x4 store in DHA Lahore, and they're buying from Unilever, Nestle, and Pepsi, how much inventory are they holding? And the way I do it is that I apply a certain level of psychometric is to it. So we go to the merchant and we ask the merchant that how much are you buying from Unilever? The merchant doesn't know that we already know. So if the merchant doesn't lie, then we go out and ask them, how much do you buy from Nestle, from Pepsi, from Coke? And then we take the pictures and then we feed all of that data. So then we become the only entity now that knows how much he's buying from everyone, because Unilever and Unilever distributor only knows about Unilever. And now we are feeding all of that information in AI and machine learning algorithm. All of this time we are selling within a whitelist, the whitelist that we got from the distributor and the FMCG. So my sales guys can't go out and missell, because I'm telling them to go to this merchant and ask these questions and fill them up. And I have the answers of half of them already. So, so based on that, then we go out and we start to extend this credit. And so far, what's happened is that we've got hardly any bad debt. The only time we mess up is when we get out of the white list, meaning when I send my guys out to sell to the Kiryana stores and they go out and they do cash loans, sometimes my salespeople end up colliding with folks who are non-Kiryana, and it's called masking. Other than that, we haven't seen any issues there. We have to get into the psychology of the Kiryana here because, you know, they operate in the same geography. They lend down to, you know, to the houses, etc. They're very conservative, you know, and, you know, they just make for great credit partners. So is it clear that it's the data, and after taking the data, we go and validate that data in the real world, then we re-put that data in our engine, but at the same time, all the time, we're operating within a whitelist. So mis-selling can't happen.
Okay, and the reason why credit card rates are so high is because they have a high bad debt rate, because people borrow and they are either unable to pay or they don't pay. I understand that you are going from a distributor's list, so obviously the merchants will be more reliable than an
Yes.
individual, right?
Yes.
So there is
Yes.
that sort of higher. But what is your rate of bad debts? Have you got a percentage, and how long have you been going? How long have you been doing this?
Yes, so we've been lending. We've been in this Kiryana business specifically for about 18 months now. What that means is that we have run 18 cycles of loans, meaning that we've got stores that have taken 10, 12, 14, 16 loans by now. So, you know, and we did that because, you know, it's very important because, you know, we want them to manage their cycles and they buy every week, every 10 days. So I have zero bad debt. What does that mean in our language? What it means is that I have a certain percentage of my portfolio that goes into 30 past days. You know, that means they get late, but they pay. And I have a certain amount of people who are in the 60s also. But,
Correct.
you know, I re-engineer their portfolios, and you know, they want to pay and they will pay. So there's hardly any bad debt. Bad debt only happens when, you know, we screw up, you know, because of our character or lack of system at Finja. But when we go and find the right Kiryana with the right data, I mean, I've got clients, you know, who have died and their relatives have come and said, yaar, you know, हमें थोड़ा सा time दे दो और हम ये रीपे करेंगे, because you know, आपको पता है हमारे कल्चर में है कि तो वो सारा इन पे अप्लाई करता है. They are the best risk in the subcontinent for
So
MSME
actually your security is the fact that the merchant will always want to be doing business with the distributor, otherwise he'll go bankrupt. So that is your security, in other words. The distributors, sort of financial, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
he has a
finally,
track record.
you don't
He has
have
a
a
track record.
percentage. You don't have bad debts at all. Zero.
Yeah, we have, I would say, negligible, you know, because for all practical purposes, zero, you know, which is unheard, and you know, some will come in time, but unbelievable, because
Thank
you know,
you.
because it's track record, right? Because you know, like for example, I'm 47, and you know, the Kiryana stores that I were walking to when I was 5 or 7 are still around. You know, they hardly ever go out of business, and you know, you have 10-year data on how much they've been buying, and if you don't overprice your loans and you keep the credit cycles, I mean, you know, you have to design these products in a way that they can only help these businesses, right? I mean, and not harm them in any way. So
So basically you're supplying them money to buy some stock, which they turn over quite quickly, and then therefore they can repay you in a very short cycle.
Absolutely. Now the same,
That's the key.
yeah, that's the key. And you know, I want to make it more exciting now. You know, the thing is, there's so many online companies, right? Now this online company today, when it sells something like a 4,000 rupee sweater, now you know, the money is not going to come to that small company for another 3 weeks, because The courier guy is going to have it for 5 days in this system of cash and delivery. But what would happen in this new world, and I'm not going to say everything Finja is going to do, but what I'm trying to tell you is that as soon as the online commerce company is going to raise an invoice of 4,000 rupees, and as long as the goods are shipped, they would get 3,000 880 rupees in their account immediately, and it's called invoice discounting.
Right.
Now, when that happens, the business is in a completely different world because their cash flows are sorted. Same thing would happen to a restaurant that is delivering food through Food Panda or Uber Food or whatever, right? They could go out and get a loan because their sales are so much and they get a percentage of that. Now, the banks were so miserably unable to do stuff like this. And the point that I was trying to make was that these new companies that have come in will become the glue between the bank and the businesses. And exactly like I always like to say, I think this is the high point of the talk, is that what the apps have done to the smartphones is what I like to say is exactly what the fintechs and the startups would do to the banks or to any incumbent in any industry. And what the apps have done really is that they've taken the burden of innovation from the platforms, which is the iOS and Android, and have taken them to the small guys, which is the apps. In the process, what they did was that 70% of the revenue that is being made is made by the small apps, and 30% only goes to the platform. That decision, when that happened in 2008, has changed the world completely, because all smart people, young people, small companies from there on have been creating apps which have made smartphone the most pervasive device in the human history. Now, the same thing is happening with incumbents. So incumbents are platforms in whatever industry they are. They can't innovate to save their lives. They bring in these new fintechs and startups, through API technology. And then when these startups and fintechs create new value, only then they get a part of the revenue. If they are dud, like a dud app, iOS and Android don't lose anything. So the thing now is that it's now become a leadership imperative. The problem is that folks that are heading these institutions don't understand that they are platforms and they need a multitude of these small companies to come and play on top of them. And then if any one of them scales, they scale with it. So they almost have to institutionalize the process of these partnerships. And that's a leadership thing. And the problem with banks is that they've never collaborated for 500 years. They only create vendors. And the problem with leaders is that they're stuck in the post, industrial age where, technology did not allow for this type of value unlock. So, they are like competing with each other. But now you don't have to try and get a bigger part of the pie. It's about growing the pie, right? That's what technology has done. But older people have a problem understanding that, and they're stuck in the old world, but they still hold the power structures. That's the only thing that's now holding on the fintech startup transformation in Pakistan. But the policymakers have realized under this tremendous pressure, political, etc., that we have in Pakistan, that they're trying to create the right policies where companies like Finja are starting to come out, but they're very few. And even Finja, I mean, Monas, my co-founder, and I, we worked, we are in our 40s, and we've been at it for it's very hard. So a country is changing when 24-year-old people can go out and spin companies, in a garage. And if there is continuous policy intervention, Pakistan can get there very quickly.
So
Dave,
can I ask a question?
Sorry.
Can
Sorry.
I ask a question?
Yes,
Mr.
sorry,
Qasif?
please go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, Mr. Qasif, in this meeting, most of the people are very old, so they'll give you that trouble which you're talking about.
No, 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 no.
so,
You
so,
guys
but,
get it. That's why you are here. No.
First of all, appreciation in a country like Pakistan. It's a great initiative, and it's a great thing to bring there. It will, I'm sure, expand and it will scale in future. But my question was that consumerism, merchants, street consumerism, right, to start with is good, but main chunk of the revenue everywhere, I believe, around the world comes from service industry. So how do you, are you in future planning to tap services industry, because there you're going to have the more clientele and more people, and so is your expansion plan including that? That was my question. Thank you.
जी मैं इसका दो फोल्ड में जवाब देता हूँ. फिंजा ये करता है जी कि एक साइड पे हम करियाना और ये लैंड करते हैं, दूसरी साइड पे हम कहते हैं कि जो प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, जो बिजनेसेस में काम करते हैं, जिनकी सैलरीज आती हैं, मेरा फिंजा का दूसरा सेगमेंट वो है. तो हमारे पास 1300 बिजनेसेस हैं जो हमारा पोर्टल यूज करते हैं और अपनी तनख्वाहें देते हैं, पेमेंट्स देते हैं, ये सब कुछ करते हैं, और उन्हीं के एम्प्लॉइज को, उनके वेंडर्स को और उन कंपनीज को भी हम लैंड करते हैं. ये हम दूसरा काम करते हैं. लेकिन जो सर्विसेज इंडस्ट्री पे बड़े कंपनीज अटैक कर रही हैं वो हैं जैज और इजी पैसा. अब इजी पैसा जो है उसके अंदर एंड फाइनेंशियल ने 42% इन्वेस्ट कर दिया है. तो Telenor is half owned by the Norwegians and half owned by Ant Financial. You know, Ant Financial is one of the largest financial services groups out of China. So ये लोग और Jazz Cash और इस तरह के लोग बहुत तेजी के साथ अपने वॉलेट्स, अपने प्रोडक्ट्स और अपने ये सारे ग्रो कर रहे हैं. और पोस्ट पैंडेमिक पाकिस्तान में डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस जो हैं वो 5x ग्रो किए, और स्टेट बैंक ने इंटरबैंक फंड्स ट्रांसफर्स को बहुत दिन तक फ्री भी रखा है. अब वो दोबारा से उसको प्राइस करने का सोच रहा है, जो नहीं करना चाहिए. उसकी वजह से भी बहुत ट्रांजैक्शंस इंक्रीज कर रही है. तो ग्राउंड लेवल पे अब मतलब अगर आपका चलान हो जाए तो आप डिजिटली पे कर सकते हैं, टैक्सेस को आप डिजिटली पे कर सकते हैं. अभी ये जो नया रोशन अकाउंट आया है, ये भी काफी चीजें इंक्रीज कर रहा है. मतलब रोशन अकाउंट से आप डायरेक्टली आगे जाके पाकिस्तान में मार्केट प्लेसेस में काम कर सकेंगे, फिंजा के वॉलेट्स में पैसे डाल सकेंगे. हमारा एक प्रोडक्ट आ रहा है फिंजा इन्वेस्ट, मतलब ये जो करियाना वालों से हम 24% बना रहे हैं, हम ये कह रहे हैं कि अगर आप इसमें पैसे डालेंगे तो हम आपको 18% देंगे फॉर एग्जांपल. तो इस तरह के जितने भी वेल्थ मैनेजमेंट प्रोडक्ट्स आ रहे हैं उनके अंदर लोग डिजिटली, तो ये ग्राउंड लेवल पे बहुत सारा काम हो रहा है इस वक्त.
That's encouraging, sir. Thank you.
Would I be right in saying that your other product is invoice factoring? Are you?
Yes. When I was talking about invoice discounting, it would come very close to it. But जो हमारा दूसरा product है सर, वो ये है कि it's a portal called Finja Business, and it's quite amazing because you can register. If you're a business in Pakistan, whether you have 2 people or 20,000 people, you go to our website, you fill out a virtual form in like 2 minutes. We call you, and then you're registered, and then you can load money in that through RTGS or IBFT or through a check, and then you can make payments, create collections, disperse salaries, bonuses, incentives, all of that, and we get to see. And all of it is free, you know, all the payments up to 100 million rupees a day, but we get to see who you are paying. So I get to see you're paying your employees, I get to see you're paying your vendor, suppliers and partners, and sometimes you come in and say, shit, my folks have not cleared my bills, so I give you a loan also, and I give up to 5 million rupee loans, but I give loans to your employees, and I give loans to your vendor, suppliers and partners because I know you make regular payments to them, and their stability increases. So again, anytime we get payment data or anytime we get to create payment data, whether it's salaries or whatever. It's an opportunity to then put digital credit from top. So the other product is actually a Trojan in a way, because it allows for you to make payments and collections, which is digitally, which becomes so essential for you to operate as a business. And when you do that, then I come and get you digital credit, which you love even more. But that's where we also make our money. But that's really what any economy needs, to grow.
Amazing. That's really good.
Gee, the
Qasif
enabling
sir,
environment, the enabling environment in the country is such that
Yeah.
such endeavors are now possible. That's what I'm trying to say, जी. ये बिल्कुल अब हो रहा है और भी हो रहा है और increasingly होगा और आसान हो रहा है.
It will almost explode in another year or 2 years.
लग रहा है जी, लग रहा है जी, लग रहा है जी.
Qasif Saab, Azfar Sameen here. I'm joining you from Canada, and I love your passion, first of all.
Thank you.
My question is a little more basic. And because we have so many products over here as well that are similar, so, and I haven't been to Pakistan lately, so I just want to understand, when you say that you're offering digital credit, how is it different from conventional credit that the banks are offering? So far, my understanding has been that, banks do offer online banking as well, and you can open an account, and I'm assuming that in Pakistan also they can drop however amount of loan that you are approved for. And from what you have said so far, the way you are interacting with the Karyanas, you have a smaller footprint, you can go in and do your due diligence, as opposed to the bigger banks who probably don't want to go through that whole exercise, and they are more, I suppose, risk averse. So if you can just explain to me, how are you different from the bigger banks? What do you mean by digital credit? Thank you.
जी, मैं explain करता हूँ. देखिए, the problem is that when banks go out and lend to businesses and small businesses or medium businesses, all of that lending at some level is collateralized in our country. So, they're looking for collaterals, and those collaterals are, all sorts of collaterals, right? And when those collaterals come in, time and space comes in, and the process comes in, and everything becomes very expensive. So first of all, the loans that we are doing are non-collateralized loans. So when I go out and lend to an employee of a company that gets a salary advance, everything is instant, because I already know everything about that individual that I need to know. So the minute he applies for a loan, for a salary advance, it gets to him instantly. The minute a business that is working with me on Finja business, the minute they apply for credit, they get whatever they need to get instantly. So the way we look at businesses and individuals is that we look at the data that they're generating, and we take decisions about how much we are going to lend to them in the near real time, or previously before they press the button. And these amounts are dispersed instantly, and they are not backed by any real world collateral. So the banks are not doing any of this.
Right. But you're offering your products on the pretext that you're offering some kind of digital credit. So I'm
It is
still kind of
digital.
lost a little bit when how do you differentiate from that perspective, from the bigger banks?
I'll tell you, like, if you've taken loan from me twice and you're a Karyana or you're a business, so the third time when you come and apply for a loan, or you have a need for a loan, that request drops into my machine learning AI engine, and based on all the data that I have about you and how you service your loans, I create a decision in the real time. and based on that decision, I go out and disperse a loan to you. I don't have paperwork, I don't have collateral, I don't have credit analysts, and I do it immediately, right? So that's really what digital credit. Not only do I do digital credit, but I disperse my credit digitally
Shahid
as
Sahab,
well.
Shahid Sahab, I think I'll reframe my earlier question. And I think this is what Asfar is also trying to ask. When you say digital credit and you say you disperse digital credit, now are you giving me in hand 100 rupees note, or are you crediting my account or whatever it is, that wallet, with some digital annotation that I have been given 100 rupees in my credit? So it is not physical movement of currency, it is digitalized movement of the value of the currency. Is that the
Yes,
correctly said?
yes. I'm so sorry. I use the word digital credit frivolously here, without realizing I'm speaking to engineers.
Older
What I
people,
mean,
older
no, no,
engineers.
no, no. I think I was technically out of depth, or I was careless with digital credit. What it is that it's actual. It's like मैंने आपका 1 लाख रुपया का लोन अप्रूव कर दिया है. अब डिपेंड करता है उस नेचर ऑफ लोन की कि क्या वो 1 लाख रुपया मैंने आपके फिंजा के वॉलेट में डालना है, क्या वो 1 लाख रुपया मैंने आपके हबीब बैंक के अकाउंट में डालना है, या क्या वो 1 लाख रुपया मैंने आपके डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के अकाउंट में डालना है. बट वो एक्चुअल 1 लाख रुपए जो है वो मूव होता है डिजिटली और वो उधर जाता है. दिस इज नॉट एनी क्रिप्टो करेंसी, दिस इज नॉट डिजिटल क्रेडिट, दिस इज नॉट दिस इज रियल मूवमेंट ऑफ वैल्यू. इसके पीछे बैंकिंग सेटलमेंट्स होती हैं, अकाउंट्स होते हैं, सब कुछ होता है. मेरे पास अब आई ऑपरेट लाइक अ डिजिटल बैंक. All of these are real transactions that are plumbed in. तो वो मैं जब उसको पैसे देता हूँ तो वो एटीएम से जाके निकाल भी सकता है, वो उससे ऑनलाइन ट्रांजैक्शन भी कर सकता है, वो उसको कहीं और भी भेज सकता है. So in that conventional sense.
Basically, I hope you won't mind. I can give a slightly simpler way of explaining it. That
Please.
all that is happening is that instead of money going in wads, you have a pool of money ready and waiting in your bank. And that from that pool of money, you are able to immediately transfer into a merchant's account or into an individual's account, money, real money, which will go into their bank accounts. And they can then immediately use it to buy something from their distributor. So what you're doing is really very short-term, quick lending, and that is all helped by the electronic system that you have. So basically, it's
Yes,
not, as you
absolutely.
said, it's not crypto money, it is real money. Am I right?
Yes. You have spot on. You've said it much better than I did. And we could do this. Finja can do this because we have these 2 licenses now, one from the SCCP and the State Bank, and those licenses have allowed us to get into the plumbing to integrate in the banking plumbing of the country. So we have trust accounts at multiple banks, exactly like you've explained. And we can do exactly what you said, but because we have these licenses.
I live in England, and here 1 or 2 agents, estate agents, I'm giving a different example. Estate agents have gone completely digital. Digital means they don't have an office on the high street, but they operate digitally only. You talk to somebody, you make your connection digitally. The person comes, evaluates your home or whatever. But then the process of lending, of getting a tenant or doing a sale is all electronic. There's no office you go to. Everything, all the paperwork. I think that's what your bank is. It's all an electronic bank. I can't go and come to your office and do any transaction there, basically.
That's right. Exactly. And
one supplementary question I have. Where do you see all this digital transactions going? You see in the future a time that there will be no currency at all, or there will be very little of it in circulation, and most transactions in and out of a person's purse or a wallet will be digital. Do you see that?
Yeah, dekho, this is very clear that there is a clear correlation that the lighter as an economy you are on cash and paper based, the more prosperous or the more growthful or the more the quality of improvement in people's lives positively correlate with the reduction of cash and paper. And we've got countless examples starting from Norway to South Africa, wherever, Australia, wherever, India now, so jahan so Pakistan needs to be a cash light economy and a paper light economy, and the minute you do that, the transparency increases, efficiency increases, digital credit increases, corruption reduces, government to people relationships get reinvented, new data emerges based on which so clearly, policy makers have to understand and actively go out and do this. And this is not a debate anymore. When we meet now at the highest level, at the policy makers in all countries, including Pakistan, there is no question about this, that, that's what has to happen. And that's what all the regulators, etc., policy makers are trying to do, and we see that in their play. I think that's one thing that PTI needs to sort of own and do well, because it's going to happen at some level on its own, right? And if you own it and you harness it, the power of it, it can really sort of improve things in a big way. Because गरीब आदमी अभी अमीर इसलिए नहीं हो रहा कि वो घर नहीं खरीद सकता, घर इसलिए नहीं खरीद सकता कि उसको तनख्वाह कैश में मिल रही है, कोई देख नहीं सकता। तो मतलब अब अगर रेडी वाले ने घर खरीदना है, तो वो जो रेडी पे चीजें बेच रहा है, अगर मुझे नजर आ जाए कि वो कितना बेच रहा है और कितना खरीद रहा है, तो मैं I can help him get a house, right? So ये basically mantra है, and all of this can be done under Islamic principles, because we've got these great institutions, banks with unlimited capital that are Islamic. A Mizan Bank is, I have more than 1.5 billion rupees worth of book that Mizan Bank is saying that, jis tarah tum kar rahe ho, isko karo. So, and then there are other companies coming in. So there is immense amounts of Islamic capital available when these things happen at the ground.
सब एक कमेंट और क्वेश्चन है। एक तो ये कि पाकिस्तान में बैंकिंग स्टिल वेरी वेरी कॉस्टली। एक तो उसके ऑब्वियसली एक उसका इन्फ्लेशन रीजन है जिसकी वजह से इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर वेरी हाई, बट अदरवाइज जो सर्विसेज चार्जेस वगैरह भी हैं पाकिस्तान में बहुत ज्यादा हैं। इंटरबैंक आप ट्रांसफर करते हैं, इट इज लॉट ऑफ मनी व्हेन आई कंपेयर इट इन द बेस्ट वेयर इट इज ऑलमोस्ट जीरो। एक तो ये रीजन। अच्छा, इसको ऑफसेट करने के लिए क्या हुआ कि यहाँ पर वेस्ट में आपको पता है पिछले 3-4 सालों में देयर आर सो मेनी डिजिटल बैंक्स नाउ कमिंग अप व्हिच डोंट हैव एनी ऑफिस, डोंट विजिट एनीवेयर, यू जस्ट ओपन द अकाउंट ऑनलाइन। अब पाकिस्तान में जो कॉस्ट इतनी हाई है, डू यू सी some areas, some flooding like digital banks in Pakistan also, जो इस कॉस्ट को रिड्यूस करें जो पाकिस्तान में इतनी एक्सॉर्बिटेंट कॉस्ट है उसमें? आप मुझे थोड़ा सा ये भी बताइए गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज बारे में क्या हैं? आर दे सपोर्टिंग डिजिटल बैंकिंग इन पाकिस्तान?
जी, मैं यही गुजारिश कर रहा हूँ। स्टेट बैंक बहुत सपोर्ट कर रहा है और पिछले कई महीने से ये जो आप फंड्स ट्रांसफर की बात कर रहे हैं, ये फ्री है पाकिस्तान में। मैंने तो अगर आप मेरी सुनेंगे तो मैं तो बनाता ही फ्री बिजनेस मॉडल हूँ, बट एज अ कंट्री पाकिस्तान में कोविड जब शुरू हुआ है, स्टेट बैंक ने ये सब फंड्स ट्रांसफर फ्री कर दिए और अभी भी फ्री है। अब बैंक्स रो रहे हैं और कह रहे हैं प्राइस करो, तो स्टेट बैंक शायद दोबारा प्राइस कर दे, बट मेरे जैसे लोग लॉबी कर रहे हैं कि मत प्राइस करो क्योंकि तुमने फ्री किया है। तो देखो 5 टाइम्स ग्रो किए हैं उस टाइम में मतलब 5 टाइम्स ग्रो कर गई है डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस। तो स्टेट इदारों को ये समझना है और उन्होंने कैश की ट्रांजैक्शंस पे प्रीमियम लगाना है और डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस को सस्ता करना है और बार बार ये करना है बिल्कुल। और पाकिस्तान में इस वक्त डिजिटल बैंक के लाइसेंसेस बन रहे हैं और अगले 6 महीने साल में डिजिटल बैंक के लाइसेंसेस आएंगे। दुनिया के बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज आके 2-3 लाइसेंसेस लेंगी। पाकिस्तान दुनिया का 5वां सबसे बड़ा मुल्क बन रहा है इन टर्म्स ऑफ नंबर ऑफ पीपल कनेक्टेड टू द इंटरनेट। तो आई मीन इतनी बड़ी मार्केट है। आपको पता है पाकिस्तान दुनिया का 3रा सबसे बड़ा मुल्क है जिसमें इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग अंडरस्टैंडिंग है। इंडिया और यूएस के बाद कहीं इतने लोग ही नहीं है जो यस नो एंटर कैंसल थैंक यू नो सॉरी वगैरह वगैरह को समझते हैं। तो मतलब बेसिक और न्यूमेरिकली लिटरेट है सारे पाकिस्तान में। जितने भी जाहिल हैं कभी आपको कोई ऐसे नहीं मिलेगा जिसको आपने पैसे दिए हैं और वो काउंट नहीं कर सकता। So everybody is numeric and Pakistan is one of the largest youngest countries in the world.
Yes.
मतलब हमारी जो तो ये जितने आप छोटे हैं उतने ही ज्यादा आप डिवाइस सेवी हैं। जरूरी नहीं है कि आप किस सोशल स्ट्रेटा से आ रहे हैं। जितने छोटे हैं उतना बेहतर आप डिवाइस ऑपरेट। तो ये बड़े बड़े डेमोग्राफिक फैक्टर्स हैं जो पाकिस्तान की के उसके के हाल में जा रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से डिजिटल बैंक्स भी आएंगे। लोग पाकिस्तान को मार्केट्स की तौर पे भी देखेंगे, जिसकी वजह से फिंजा जैसी कंपनीज में आके इंटरनेशनल वीसीज इन्वेस्ट भी कर रहे हैं। बेतहाशा और कंपनीज में भी इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं। करीम के कई लोगों ने अभी 2-3 नई कंपनीज में इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हो रही हैं। तो ये पहले नहीं हो रहा था कि इंटरनेशनल वीसीज आके पाकिस्तानी कंपनीज में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, वो भी हो रहा है। तो एक होप है, एक इकोसिस्टम बिल्ड हो रहा है। और जो बहुत सारे लोग असल जो है ना जी, वो ये है कि जो आप जैसे लोग जो पाकिस्तान से बाहर हैं वो कैसे इस तरह की पाकिस्तानी कंपनीज को सपोर्ट करें और वो कैसे इस तरह के एंटरप्रेन्योरल आइडियाज लेके आए पाकिस्तान में, बिकॉज एक्सपोजर बहुत जरूरी है। और फिर वो ये जो चीजें हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स को पता होती हैं जो पाकिस्तान में लोगों को नहीं पता, वो बहुत जरूरी है किसी भी काम को बड़ा करने के लिए या स्केल करने के लिए। तो इंडिया में भी जो तरक्की हुई है उसमें सिंगल मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर जो है वो उनके एनआरआईज हैं। तो और पाकिस्तान में ऑल्दो डायस्पोरा उससे तो छोटा है, लेकिन आई थिंक उनका एक बहुत बड़ा रोल होगा इन चीजों में। जैसे जैसे ये फाउंडेशनल चीजें होंगी, ये फाउंडेशनल चीजें है ना कि पेमेंट्स हो रही हैं, डेटा आ रहा है, ब्यूरोज बन गए हैं, चीजें हो गई हैं, फिर उसके ऊपर आके वैल्यू क्रिएट होती है। तो आई थिंक एक्सपर्ट्स विल फील मोर कंफर्टेबल व्हेन दिस जंगल इज टेम्ड अ लिटिल बिट। तो फिर हमारा भी टाइम आएगा जैसे इंडिया में एनआरआईज ने रोल प्ले किया था, आप लोग भी करेंगे।
Sir, yes, I totally agree that financial industry is revolutionizing. Technology, new technology is coming. Around the world, lawmaking and legislations are going on cryptocurrency and decentralized finance, and so many things are being done in America and Europe. And so is there any consideration in Pakistan as well? Because what you're saying, another 2 to 3 years time frame, maybe another 3 to 4 year time frame, cryptocurrencies will be bombarding in everywhere. So is there any work or any thought started in Pakistan on including or on transferring to blockchain or decentralized finance? Thank you.
ये बड़ा अच्छा सवाल है। नहीं जी, ये आयरनी है, ये ट्रेजेडी है कि एक्चुअली पाकिस्तान जैसे मुल्क, इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स जो है ना, अगर वो पुराने सिस्टम्स को छोड़ दें और जल्दी से नए सिस्टम्स पे आ जाएं तो वो तेजी से प्रोग्रेस कर जाएंगी। बट आयरनी ये है कि ये जो दुनिया के सिस्टम्स हैं वो उन मुल्कों को जिनको सबसे ज्यादा ओवरहॉलिंग की जरूरत है कभी भी इन नई टेक्नोलॉजीज और करेंसीज को यूज नहीं करने देंगी। तो पाकिस्तान ने भी ये व्यू ले लिया है कि क्रिप्टो फॉर द फोर्सिएबल फ्यूचर पाकिस्तान में उस तरह नहीं होएगी। लेकिन आप देखेंगे कि जो बाहर की इकोनॉमीज हैं वो आहिस्ता 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 अपने अंदर क्रिप्टो ले आएंगी और अपने आप को ओवरऑल करेंगी। और फिर एंड में इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स की बारी आएगी। इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स को जो अपने फाइनेंशियल फैसले पूरी तरीके से खुद नहीं कर सकेंगे, वो इतने बोल्डली नए स्ट्रक्चर्स पे जाने की उनको इजाजत नहीं मिलेगी। बट दैट्स वन वे टू क्विकली चेंज थिंग्स, बट आई डोंट थिंक वी आर इन अ पोजीशन टू इवन थिंक लाइक दैट। तो हमने क्लियरली कह दिया है कि हम अभी क्रिप्टो में नहीं जा रहे।
Sir, just a supplement to that. Commercial sector, though, there is still a possibility that they can do that because
जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
Pakistan has not, as far as I know, maybe if I'm wrong, if you can correct me, Pakistan legally has not forbidden cryptocurrency so far. I understand probably India has done that, but not Pakistan. So if has not banned crypto kind of a business in Pakistan, so you guys who are from commercial markets, you can use the decentralized platforms, decentralized finance platforms. There are so many platforms available where you can develop your decentralized apps and do business on that, and that would probably in the private sector bring crypto in so that you are ahead of the game in that region. So that was the comment I wanted to
नहीं
say.
आप सही कह रहे हैं, आप सही कह रहे हैं। तो फॉर एवरीवन्स क्लैरिफिकेशन के एज इंडिविजुअल्स और एज स्मॉलर एंटिटीज एक्सेट्रा, नॉट एज रेगुलेटेड एंटिटीज, लेकिन अगर आप क्रिप्टो में कोई खरीद फरोख्त कर रहे हैं, अपनी चीजें कर रहे हैं, तो मतलब गवर्नमेंट आपको आके रोक नहीं सकती एज सच। बट अगर मैं एक रेगुलेटेड इदारा हूं, जैसे मैं अब हो गया हूं, फिंजा 2 रेगुलेटर्स रेगुलेट कर रही है, तो मैं उन लाइसेंसेस के ऊपर क्रिप्टो की चीजें फॉर एग्जांपल फैसिलिटेट नहीं कर सकता। बट एज एन इंडिविजुअल मैं और आप क्रिप्टो की कोई ट्रांजैक्शन आई गेस कर सकते हैं। सो दैट्स हाउ इट्स गोइंग ऑन। जी बिल्कुल।
Yes,
So
people can do that.
yes,
People can do
yes,
that.
yes.
Because if they develop dApps, they are calling it dApps. It is the applications on crypto platforms. So those applications can do transactions by using and payments in cryptocurrencies. They will not involve other fiat currencies into this. So that's a big area, and I don't know whether Pakistanis are working on that or not, but it can be utilized.
यस ये देखने की जरूरत है। जैसे अभी पेपैल ने अभी एक सर्विस निकाली है कि आप बिटकॉइन खरीद सकते हैं, लेकिन आपकी कोई सीक्रेट कीज नहीं होगी, और आप उसको ट्रांजैक्ट भी कर सकते हैं, लेकिन आप कभी कैश आउट नहीं कर सकेंगे। सो बेसिकली आप पेपैल पे जाएं, आप बिटकॉइंस खरीदें, आप उसको इधर उधर भी करें, स्टोर भी करें, इन्वेस्ट भी करें, बट नथिंग इज सीक्रेट एंड यू कांट anonymously cash it out either, etc. So I mean, जिस तरह की आप बात कर रहे हैं उस तरह की, तो इस तरह की अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं और करनी चाहिए बिल्कुल। इट्स टू योर पॉइंट, फ्रिंजेस पे, ताकि मतलब अगर आप बिल्कुल ही नहीं करेंगे तो फिर हाउ विल यू मूव विद टाइम्स। बट यस यू आर राइट।
I think South Korea is doing the same model. They have allowed cryptocurrency with government regulations, and I mean everything is there, but nothing is hidden.
जी,
So your
that's the
ID
way to
is
do it.
registered. Yeah, ID is registered there.
जी आई थिंक अब आजकल तो हमारे रेगुलेटर्स इतने अच्छे हैं कि इस कॉन्वर्सेशन के बाद मैं उनको एक नोट लिख सकता हूँ या फोन कर सकता हूँ, और वो वाकई इन चीजों पे गौर भी करेंगे। सो दे आर वेरी प्रोग्रेसिव दीज डेज, तो जो भी अच्छी चीजें हैं, तो आई मीन एंड दे आर लिसनिंग ऑल द टाइम। तो ये मैंने पहले कभी नहीं देखा कि रेगुलेटर्स जो हैं वो सारा वक्त देख रहे हैं मौके। तो ये बात मैं पहुंचाऊंगा उन तक। जी
Sir, even आप around the world digital currency ATMs हैं, we have it in Toronto, तो हम cash out भी कर सकते हैं। I mean, if you're working in Pakistan or if you partner with Salahuddin or myself, so if you want to cash out from that ATM, so it can be cashed out and circled it back into your business. So एक इंटरनेशनल नेटवर्क बनाया जा सकता है ऑफ बिजनेस एसोसिएशंस, वेयर आप पेमेंट्स की जो इंटरेक्शन है, ट्रांसफर है, वो करें डिजिटल में, बट कैश आउट करनी है तो वो आप इंटरनेशनली कर लें।
पॉसिबल। So I think it's been a fabulous conversation, Ji.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Any other question? Otherwise, we call it a day.
Yeah, I would like to just say, Qasif Saab, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ji.
It
Thank you
was
for having
very
me.
excellent
enlightening,
presentation. Thanks a lot.
very enlightening topic and a discourse from your side. And I'm very happy that all the participants took pride in listening to you and putting you questions that you very well handled. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us in our society, I thank you for being here tonight and giving us your inputs on this very important and futuristic banking sector that we have been unaware of so far. And best of luck
Thank you,
with
Ji.
your Finja turtle.
Thank you very much, Ji. Thank you very much. And thank you for listening to me, and thanks for asking such intelligent questions. And I hope to come across most of you again sometime. Thank
So
you.
kind
Have
of
a
you.
great one, Ji.
So kind of you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you,
Qasif.
Kasaf. Thanks.
All the best.
Salahuddin, thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Allah Hafiz. Good night.
Allah Hafiz.
Good night.